I think of all the professors and supervisors that I ever had, I think John Clausen, Reverend John Clausen, was the one who kind of transformed from being a person who assigned me a grade every week to a friend. I could call him after college for advice and even go to a ball game in Toronto on occasion. And when we meet, we still talk like old friends, not like student and supervisor. The most intriguing part of this passionate plea of Jesus to his disciples was this seemingly sudden transformation of the 12 of them from his servants to his friends. And the Greek is much more potent. It says, "I do not call you slaves any longer, but I have called you friends." And as he explained to them, the slave doesn't know what the master is doing. The slave is kept outside the lines of authority. The slave just obeys as the slave is told. But friends hear everything. Friends go with you in the good days and in the bad and the difficult days. Now, reading it 2,000 years later, it still seemed to me like a kind of rather dramatic change in this relationship. So it must have been, I can only think, life-altering to them. No longer Jesus' slave. Now they were part of the team, a colleague, a friend of Jesus. And Jesus chooses them, he says. This group, out of all the crowds who follow him, out of all the fishers who stand by the sea, of all the people who might want to have a relationship with this rural rabbi, Jesus nods his head at each one of them. You aren't my slaves anymore. I am choosing you, Keith, Phyllis, Don, Joan, Jim, Nyla, Carol, Jeannie, Val, I choose Irene, I choose you. Not to be my slave, not to be my servant, but to be my friend. Seneca, the Roman philosopher, said that a friend is someone for whom I may die, whom I may go into exile, against whose death I stake my own life and pay the pledge. And Jesus said, as you heard, no one has greater love than this, than they lay down their life for a friend. The people you would go to the wall for, the people who you would die for, the people you would follow into exile for, those are our friends. And who are those friends for you right now in your life? Professor Bill Lorder says that what Christianity has favored is this servant image of our relationship with Jesus over the years. But Jesus, in this text, and that story changes that dynamic. He says, you aren't my servants anymore. You are my friends. You aren't my slaves anymore. You're my closest companions. And I've kind of been trying to get my head around that this week. I've always kind of thought of myself and my ministry as being a servant of Jesus in the world, right? And here he's saying, no, you're now my friend. You're my companion along the way. And Loder also asks, what does it mean if we no longer pray up or pray through someone, but that we're praying directly to Jesus across the table from us, our friend? One of the mysterious people in my father's life was his army buddy, Jimmy Chase. And whenever Jimmy Chase came to town, he always came to visit my dad. It was for Sir. They had been in the Canadian Army together. They had fought through Holland and into Germany by the war's end. And my father never said so much as a word about what they had been through together. He didn't talk about the war hardly at all, but he never talked about what he and Jimmy had seen or done. But you could tell the relationship between the two of them was quite different. It was deep. They talked a language, and they laughed in a way that, even as a kid, I knew my dad doesn't do this with his other friends. When you're prepared to lay down your life for someone, and they're prepared to lay down their life for you, that friendship has this kind of quality to it, this uniqueness that is both long and strong. And Jesus had come to that point, to that very point with the disciples. So almost all of the biblical scholars say that the lens we have to see this text and this incident on is through what they call Jesus' final discourses. Jesus knows the end is near. And so he gives them these final discourses to the disciples in light of what is to come. When I'm about to leave you, when I do leave you, when the road ahead involves suffering and involves death, the relationship changes. You aren't. You are not my slaves anymore. You are my friends. And Jesus wanted them to know that before the day came when everything changed for that final time. This morning I want to share, I discovered this letter from a Civil War soldier by the name of Sullivan Ballou to his wife Sarah. It was a letter which only surfaced after Ken Burns' incredible documentary on the U.S. Civil War. Ballou was a soldier from Rhode Island, and sensing his own death, thinking that it would be coming soon, he wrote a final letter to his wife. The indications are strong that we shall move in a few days, perhaps tomorrow. Lest I should not be able to write you again, I feel impelled to a few lines that may fall under your eyes when I shall be no more. Sarah, my love for you is deathless. It seems to bind me with mighty cables that nothing but omnipotence could break. The memories of the blissful moments that I have spent with you come creeping over me. I feel most grateful to God and to you that I have enjoyed them for so long, and hard it is for me to give them up and burn them to ashes, the hope of future years together. If I do not return, my dear Sarah, never forget how much I love you. And when my last breath escapes me on the battlefield, it will whisper your name. Sullivan Ballou was killed 7 days later at the Battle of Bull Run. Thanks be to God for our friends. Amen.